I decided to become an architect when I was 12 years old. And I think it was always maybe well suited to my personality. Like, I have a real love for structure. I like the intellectual and theoretical aspects of architecture. In a way, it's a kind of a profession where you can be really creative, but also obsessive and kind of, it's like a discipline, not in the S&M sense, but it's very comforting for me as a borderline OCD person to be doing this job. So I pursued this, and after grad school, I got married pretty young. I had 2 kids, and I was a professor, and I'd started a practice. And in my practice, I was doing these sort of intellectual, like white boxes for, mostly for artists. They were kind of like high concept, not high concept, we call it like highbrow but low budget projects. And I, in a way, in my personal life too, was sort of dedicated to this, maybe compartmentalizing. Like, I think I wanted everything to be in like perfect little white boxes, and it didn't go so well. Like suddenly, one day, my husband announced he was leaving our marriage and moving to New York, and I was suddenly like a single mom with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And it was super sad. It was really hard. And I was living in this sublet apartment. And I got also kind of angry, maybe like a... I was angry. I was angry at architecture. Like, I know it's transference, but I was blaming architecture. I was blaming architecture, which was my first love, this kind of discipline where I'd followed all the rules and like gone by the book, and it like didn't work out. I didn't have this perfect life. So these friends of mine who are like hippies, and I'm by the way like a sort of Yankee uptight person by nature. They convinced me that I should go see a healer, like a full-on New Age healer. And I was like, no way. But they're like, no, really, no, you need to get in touch with your feelings. Like, you're too much in your head. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll go see this healer. So I go see this guy, and I'm lying on the table. The guy's like poking my spleen, and like asking me these hard questions. And one of the questions he asked me was, what do you visualize to yourself? Give me a positive visualization of what you want to be doing like 6 months from now. And I kind of sat upright. I was like my sublet will be over. I have to find somewhere to live immediately for like me and my daughters. Like, I kind of like ran out of there, really. And then I was like driving home, and this is a true story. I'm driving home. I get totally lost in Echo Park. I don't usually get lost. I get lost, and I come across this place. And I just stop my car, and there's something about it, like there's like this child's drawing of a house, like the little gable, and maybe I think I see it like a little bit like a self-portrait or something. At the time, it's a condemned shack, and so I bought it. Like, I bought it the next day, and then and then the day after that, I started working on it. And this time, like, I didn't follow any of my rules. Like, I didn't do any drawings. I got like a totally fake building permit to replace the windows or something. And I went out and I hired these guys, like some different subcontractors. And I started going every day and like working on this thing, because I had 5 months to get this place done so I could move when the sublet was over. And even though like every night I'd be home kind of like sad about the whole crisis of my personal life, it was actually really fun to be doing this. It was actually like where I kind of like forgave architecture and maybe sort of fell in love with it again, because I had all this freedom suddenly. And this is what, well, I mixed up my story, but this is the other thing it reminded me of, and this is the Unabomber shack, which I love this building because it's, on the one hand, it's like the perfect American, like, frontiersman shelter. It looks like a, like, I don't know, Little House on the Prairie, like tiny house. On the other hand, the image of isolation and danger, perfect place to raise your children. But anyhow, so I ended up turning that other house into this house. And while this house was painted this really dark blue, black, that was inspired by some of the New England colonial houses that I love, and it glows, at night. The idea that the body of the house kind of disappears and the inside glows out. While I was doing it, I discovered some other new kind of techniques that I've worked with since then. This is the before and after. One of the ideas of the house, or that came out of doing it, was these kids were they're 3 and 1. They're into riding their bikes around. So I wanted to make it so that they could actually go in a crazy 8 through the house, outdoors, indoors, kind of looping around. And it turned out that idea of circulation was this really cool thing in cocktail parties too, because as an adult, you can if you want to talk to people, you stay on the stream and kind of meet everybody. But if you don't, you can always go out, the other way and avoid them. So a lot of the inside of the house too is really defined by this kind of colorful collage. I used a lot of, which I had never really done other. My kids influenced me a lot. I never liked pink before I had 2 daughters, age 3 and 2. But we, the house ended up getting published a lot, kind of internationally. And in fact, it was in the New York Times, which then led me to this other amazing thing, which was this book deal. I got this contract to do a book where I got to do what I wanted, and what I wanted to do was a love letter to the architecture of Silver Lake and LA in general, but in particular the domestic modernism that's really eccentric and bohemian, a lot of radicalized clients and experimental building techniques. And in the book design too, the friends of mine that I collaborated with, we kind of decided to just throw out the rule book and not do a Swiss modern, architecture monograph, which is kind of what I would have done in the past, in my more academic self. And instead, we got really kind of rad with the graphics. And when I was shooting everybody's houses, we didn't stage any furniture. There's no lemons in a bowl. It's really kind of this as-is, ersatz, bohemian lifestyles book. And so for me, the book and the house are kind of the beta versions of what's now my main motto as an architect, which is this idea that everybody should experience strange beauty every day. And that's, thank you. I see there's a lot of fans of Russian formalism in the house here. But no, it's a paraphrase of this technique, art is making strange, or defamiliarization. And I do think that as people, we tend to get really habituated to our environments and we stop seeing them. You take things for granted. And so as a designer, my job, I've decided, is to create these moments where you can kind of pause and breathe and just experience a little bit of beauty, as you're going, just that space to have some beauty. And so that often means really mundane environments, like coffee shop or office cubicle or kitchen, can be transformed into these kind of things there's some elements that are tweaked, whether through color or pattern or kind of spatial arrangement to cause you to, experience that strange beauty. I think the idea of strange beauty, though, when you apply it urbanistically, to Los Angeles, is something that brings me to my main topic, which is that I think in LA there's this AC/DC current of creative energy underlying the city, and that we can all tap into it and feed off of it. And it's this sort of dual strains of sunshine and smog. And what I mean by that is, in the case of sunshine, is the architect's version, but it's Sister Creative posters, Deborah Sussman's graphics for the Olympics, case study modernism, the idea of indoor-outdoor living or transparency, Palm Springs. That's the kind of high modernist, sunshiny side. But at the same time, there is smog, which is like early Frank Gehry blank stucco facades, or a Raymond Pettibone drawing, or gangster rap, or even like the film noir, or the toxins in the air, that lead to amazing sunsets, even though they may poison your lungs. So but this, I think in the past, like in my more rule-driven earlier life, I kind of thought like you had to choose, you had to be like one side or the other, you couldn't really do both, and that the big thing that I realized over time was that kind of embracing some aspects of like the romantic dystopia along with the romantic utopias is really almost necessary for creativity, that most creative fields have a real spectrum that runs like from light to dark and back again, and you need to be able to traverse, both sides of the street. I don't think that you need to get a divorce or build a house in 5 months in order to explore that, but I do think that the crises that hit, and especially in midlife, they do seem to do that a lot, that's an opportunity to like kind of like embrace the smog and enjoy the kind of crazier sunsets that come with it, and the kind of possibilities for new forms of creative work. That's it.